Sound roll.
Roll ABC.
Okay. B speed.
Rolling.
C, are you speeding?
Yes.
Alright, we're about to roll. This is 3 Charlie, take 1 mark. Okay, settle in. A set.
A is set.
B set.
B set.
And C.
C set. On you, Hadley.
And action.
Go inside the studio with the Ricky Harris Media Podcast. Here's your host, Ricky Harris.
So recently, a PA on set, on a film set, asked me a really good question. Their question was how to capture audio from a talent. Let's say you're the talent in this scenario. You're out in a large crowd that's very loud, very noisy. I guess loud and noisy are the same thing. And this person, this talent in this crowd has lines, and you want it to be audible on the video. That is a really good thinker right there. Again, close miking, I think, will be your friend in that situation. And again, there's lots of different ways to come about the same result, but I suggested a lavalier microphone, and ideally get it as close to their mouth as possible. So really, you could just have them hand holding it and having it just right up against their lips. If everything is normal, quote normal, you're not asking them to do anything that's unnatural. Let's say this is kind of like electronic news gathering, for instance. Okay, that'll work. It'll be visible. It'll be visible on camera, and you may not want that look. You may want it more cinematic where the technology is not on camera. So what you can do in that situation is tape the lavalier, take some gaffer's tape. I like gaffer's tape the best. As you work around this stuff, you will learn that gaffer's tape is your friend. It's duct tape, but really awesome duct tape and doesn't have a lot of the annoying things with duct tape where it will leave residue, it'll crinkle, it's a very, very flexible fabric. It tears easily. It comes in a multitude of colors. Tape the lavalier microphone under the bill of a hat. Have the person wear a hat or a hoodie, a beanie, whatever, some kind of headdress. Have the microphone hidden in there, but with the thought of getting it as close to their mouth as possible. So basically, close miking is a good rule of thumb, kind of get that in your head, but also signal to noise ratio. So ideally, in this situation, you can't reduce the sound. You can't reduce the crowd noise. I mean, I guess you could in some situations, especially if it's a very controlled environment where everyone there is background actors. Yeah, you just tell them to keep it down a little bit. We're recording sound here. But if that's not realistic, let's say it is electronic news gathering, you're capturing the moment. Okay, I can't make the crowd quiet down. They're doing what they're doing, and it's part of the story, right? So you tell the talent to speak louder. So that brings up the signal to noise ratio. The crowd noise is the same, but your signal is now louder. But, and again, a lot of this stuff is starting to become obsolete. Not yet. Those of you that know more about the technical bit, the A to D conversion science will better be able to explain this. But 32-bit float, I think that's going to start making this process obsolete. But you always want to be conscious of audio levels. So your talent is now speaking louder, really talking loud, right? So make sure to stay on top of your levels, watch your meters, and then pull your level back down. So there you go. And in that sense, which would normally be an acceptable audio level, them to having a normal speaking level, the signal to noise ratio is kind of shrunk down, right? But in that situation, you have them speak louder. You pull your level down, pull your mic volume down. That also brings the crowd noise down. So there's a couple of different ways I would, big heavy hitters, easy things to do just with different technique. And I would do one of those or both. And I think you'll be in good shape. And again, I know that a lot of us I wouldn't say they don't care, but the main goal is not the technology. And I have to always wrap my head around that, because for me, the technology is the fascinating part. It's the part that I'm the most interested in. And I realize most of you out there in the creative process, especially on the absolute, cutting edge of the writing side, the creative side, that side is not necessarily interesting, and sometimes it's downright annoying, right? The technology getting in the way and then kicking you out of that zone. But I have to always think about that and take that into context when I say that. So that's why I always say, just hear these heavy hitters and hit those. There's not, a specific way to do it, but close miking, signal to noise ratio, get those two in your head and you'll be in great shape. To that point, now let's say you are recording something. For example, I have a video on my YouTube. My YouTube is Ricky Harris Media, at Ricky Harris Media, RICKY. I have a video of me driving my Camaro. Now, I will give credit, got about 70% of the writing credit to Ivan Kaufman, which you will also see on my YouTube channel, playing the part of the producer in the recording studio for the Doritos commercial, both versions, the 30 and the 2-minute. No one's going to buy a 2-minute Super Bowl commercial. How much would that cost? It would be the entire revenue of the company for a year to buy a 2-minute Super Bowl commercial. But that's what it ended up being. 2 minutes to fit all that script in there. The commercial is hilarious. Ivan and Kimberly were brilliant in that spot. But anyway, so he came up with the idea, hey, you need to drive your Camaro in the snow. And I was like, yeah, that would be cool. But I was thinking, I do not want to get it stuck, because that would be very annoying. I'm not so worried about it getting it stuck. I'll be able to get it home. I'll figure something out. But I don't want to go through the annoyance of getting it stuck somewhere. And then when the next day, we had a snow day recently. We actually had a couple snow days recently here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And, everything opens back up the next day, and then my car's in the road. We don't want to be doing that. I'm annoying as it is sometimes anyway. And, I have to be conscious of that. So I'm not going to go get it stuck. So what I did is I took his idea and ran with it. I was thinking, let me just back it up in the driveway on top of the snow, and then I'll just be in the car with it idling, and I'm just thinking, and I'm just like, nah, bad idea. And I pulled it right back in and do like a little snow burnout. So what I did in that video, you may notice that, I have lines inside the car and you hear the engine running. But a little inside film, the car was actually not running when I recorded that. So what I did is I recorded it with no engine running at all. So I had a good clean recording of my lines. Now my lines were delivered. I didn't lip sync it or anything. I had the microphone that I demoed on the YouTube channel that I talk about a lot, the Miracle Sounds. They truly are a miracle. They don't take a lot of high pressure sound level though, as I mentioned. I knew if the engine was running, for one, you would not be able to understand me very well. Car is extremely loud, very bassy, mainly. And also, it clipped the mic. The mic would just start distorting, and the audio would be pretty unusable. So I was thinking, well, I could just fake it, right? We'll just do a cinematography type, workflow here. I'll just jump in the car with the camera, with my Canon, and, I recorded separate audio. In that case, I was just recording to my phone. And I just said my lines. I think what I ended up going with was take 2. I did 3 takes. And the car was off. And the way I simulated the interior sound, I just applied a low-pass filter on the audio that I recorded external to the car. And that made it sound like you were really hearing the inside of the running Camaro. But inside film, nope, I faked it. So there's a technique there too. If you have the ability to fake it, now again, if you're doing electronic news gathering, of course you don't want to fake it and make the story misleading, obviously. But if you can fake it to the where you're conveying the most accurate information, but you have audio that you can understand, then go ahead. Again, this is up to your creative decision. Your creative decisions will dictate all this, of course. But that's just my suggestion. Yeah, you can fake it. Just make sure you're not altering the story, right? That would be kind of counterproductive, right? Obviously. So back to my last experience on set. That was an absolute blast. This was a commercial shoot. And I've always found commercial shoots very interesting. Yes, it is a shorter program, right? Yep, 30 seconds a lot of times, 60 seconds sometimes. You're thinking, oh man, compared to a movie, the shoot day is going to be so much shorter. I'll be on set for about 2 hours. No. I know that. Again, I watch a lot of TV. When I say a lot of TV, I mean a lot of TV, especially when I was younger. And I love this Garage Tech's story, him recapping him going to I think it was Dynamax commercial. I've talked about this before on this show, a Dynamax muffler commercial. And it had Mario Andretti in it, right? Driving a Corvette and getting the Corvette sideways. And the shot that they used where he almost hit one of the cinema cameras is what they used in the commercial, and it was hilarious. I mean, that rear tire came within inches of the lens of that camera. What a great commercial. But it took 8 hours to shoot. 8 hours. It took a full day to shoot that commercial. It's a 30-second commercial. But that shows you the attention to detail that us, the film community, put into something on the screen. And, okay, there's lots of reasons why a production will take 8 hours for 30 seconds of a finished product. A lot of it has to do with that. Attention to details. And then when you're on set, you make sure all bases are covered. Yeah, me being the audio guy, that's kind of my specialty. In this last instance, I recorded 4 tracks. It was a blast, and fortunately, I had some interference on one of my microphones, on wireless microphones. They will do that sometimes. They're a blessing half the time, and then half the time they can be a nuisance because it is, an analog wireless device. So, and you got batteries to deal with. There's a lot of room for failure there. So I recorded 4 tracks, onboard mics on my field audio recorder. That's 2 tracks, stereo. And then I recorded a boom mic, which I was holding. And then I recorded a lavalier on one of our actors. And it's a good thing. I had 4 tracks going. So I had plenty of redundancy, and I was able to do a good immersive mix too. Starting to work on that. I've already got the first scene pretty well dialed in is the rough mix. I got to apply EQ, a little processing, just very subtle, but I've really got the bulk of the sound that I want right now. That was a blast. I highly recommend any of y'all. This is the South. This is Atlanta, Georgia production. We say y'all, right? Courtney Hanson, I don't know if you've seen her show on Motor Trend. I guess now it's on Max. Yes, on Max now. She talks about that. You know, she's originally from, I think, out west, but she has a shop in Atlanta, Georgia now, working on cars, and she's getting used to the Southern culture of Atlanta. Yeah, you got to say y'all, you all, right? Y'all. So I highly encourage y'all to go out there and collaborate, work with filmmakers. And, of course, you're going to do a lot of work voluntarily, film work, stage work, of course. That's part of honing your craft. And really a bulk of that, what I've learned in the, I don't even want to know, 30 years that I've been doing this on and off? 30 years. Yeah, it's right at 30 years now. That's crazy. 30 years? Is that right? Is my math right? 1995, 2025. Yeah, wow. Man, that's a long time. Anyway, a lot of it has to do with what works with you as far as your workflow, and also communicating your workflow to those that you're working with on set. For example, this last production I shot, I don't have time code capability on my field audio recorder. So I made that very clear at the beginning of the shoot. I'm like, yeah, we need a little bit of help on that. They're like, oh, yeah, we can use a take slate. That's no big deal. I was like, cool. So on all of my clips, I've got, as you heard at the beginning of the show, the cold open, got takes, got the audio slated, and got the snap of the clapperboard. Taking this back to the early days of film, right? Yeah, well, my little eBay special field audio recorder does not have that capability, but I'm really happy with the sound. I love this thing. And again, not a sponsor, but if you're looking at getting good audio for your social media, you can't beat it. It's like $100 and something, $150, $160. It's a Tascam DR40X, and you can use the onboard mics, and you could just stick it in your coat pocket, especially now in wintertime. You know, you won't even see it. You just use that as your on-person audio, your separate audio. And yeah, you can use your hands. You don't have to have a clapper board. You don't have to have something fancy. You definitely don't have to have one that's running time code. Although that looks really cool, right? When you got that board with the display with the frames flashing at 24 frames a second in this instance, that looks cool, right? You're like, oh, this is looking serious. But yeah, you don't have to have all that. You could just do this. All right, scene A, take one. Marker, and you just clap. Action. That's all you got to do. And you have it marked on your video and your audio. And that clap will break through a lot of processing, right? I wasn't paying attention, but I probably clipped my recorder there because it's so quick, right? It'll break through compression. So you're going to see it. It's probably going to be your loudest thing on your audio. I mean, you can sync it just visually. I do that a lot of times. I'll find that little spike, and then I'll nudge my tracks around, then I'll line it up, zoom way in, line it up, and then I play it back. And you can flip it out of phase too, and you'll hear it go. You hear this weird sound of it out of phase. That's when you know you've got it really good and synced. I want to give you a little bit of homework. It's fun homework. Don't worry. I mean, this is an education show, right? I'd say it's 50% education, 50% motivation, right? That's the whole purpose of this podcast. A little bit of homework. It's fine. I mean, Chris Stapleton, you know Chris Stapleton, right? The song White Horse. That right there, me putting a personal spin on this and kind of get you inside of my head. that song is a classic example of music that I absolutely love. It's a good mix of pop, rock, and country. It's kind of all of it combined. Oh, it has some soul too, as well, especially his vocals. A good example of the soul in his vocals, in his delivery, would be when you listen to that song, and I would recommend you use some really detailed, I say detailed, headphones that have a lot of high frequency response that are, almost like piercingly high frequency. And that could be earbuds, anything. Listen to that song and listen for the picking sounds. You can actually hear his pick strumming the strings, and then you can hear them pull his mic down. So you'll hear that, and then you'll hear it pull down, and you'll hear it again when he starts singing again. That proves right there, just from listening to it, that they recorded that with him strumming the guitar at the same time. And I've seen that a lot. I've seen that a lot with music recording, and it really does help the vocal performance of getting you in that mode of performing live. Because again, that's natural. That's what a lot of artists, that is very natural to them out there on the stage. So recreate that in the studio, right? Have him play guitar, and you can hear him just digging in. I mean, you could hear it coming up through his vocal mic. You can hear that plastic. It sounds like a plastic pick. You can hear it strumming on the strings. And again, it's very low in the mix. And I was like, oh, that's awesome that's in there, I wonder if anyone else has noticed that. Check that out. Chris Stapleton, White Horse. A perfect example of capturing the moment, capturing the emotion, capturing the soul within on tape. Wait a minute, no. On digital files. It could be on tape. Tape is still a thing. Love the way tape sounds. Yeah, it's a pain to deal with. Yes. But, you can get some great tones, and you can simulate tape with your digital audio workstation very easily. I would highly recommend doing that. I'm going to start doing that pretty soon. Simulating tape within the computer. The computer. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that voice was. Some mad scientist in the background. Oh, we have the computer now. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Ricky Harris Media Podcast. I've had too much coffee this morning. If you like what you hear, please rate us. Not only podcasts, but every business. This is kind of a business, right? This particular podcast is kind of a business. This business is informing and motivating. But we live and breathe by ratings. Please, whatever you listen to this show on, we're available on Spotify, YouTube, on my channel, Ricky Harris Media. We're also available on Apple Podcast. But if you just search Ricky Harris Media Podcast on Google, you'll be able to find a way to subscribe that works best with how you like to listen to your podcast. I know Spotify is a very popular way of listening to podcasts, but I like Podcast Addict. Yeah, I know. In this case, we won't go there. I'm a caffeine addict, right? Podcast Addict. If you're on Android, I don't think it's on iOS. I would use Spotify. It works really well. However you like to listen to it, we're on there. Ricky Harris Media, the podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And if you have anything that you want to discuss on the show, if you want to come on the show, if you want to leave an audio clip, please email me. This is my personal email address, and I don't care if you have it. It's rfhharris@gmail.com. So it's two H's. rfhharris. Email me an audio clip, or just email me something that you are curious about as far as audio production, film production, music production, really any kind of production. and then we can bounce some ideas off of one another, and we can come up with something cool. Thanks for listening. This is the Ricky Harris Media Podcast. See you guys and gals next week. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. Took a week off for that. See you guys and gals later. Next time. Later. Bye.